This is the overview of chapter 3 of the Bhagavad Gita. So we have seen in chapter 2 that different paths were explained. Sankhya Yoga, Buddhi Yoga, control of the senses by intelligence, working without fruitive desire. So fruitive desire means you work and you want to enjoy the results of your work. Krishna told Arjuna to keep all abominable activities far distant by devotional service or Buddhi Yoga. So that means avoiding completely all sinful activities. Taking the meaning of Buddhi as intelligence, Krishna's order means that Arjuna, by using his intelligence, must avoid all abominable activities and not fight. Arjuna thinks that Krishna is still urging me to fight, so he understood that he should not act from Krishna's instructions. Then Arjuna thinks that karma and jnana are not compatible. They don't go well together. But karma and jnana are two stages on the path to transcendental consciousness, as given in the Vedas. You have karma kanda, jnana kanda, upasana kanda. Upasana kanda describes different kinds of worship for elevation of consciousness. So in the third chapter, in verses 1 to 9, renunciation of work or work in devotion, this question is raised. So in his confused state, Arjuna asks Krishna to clarify his previous instructions. Krishna explains how karma yoga or devotional service is superior to renunciation of work, and he also recommends sacrifice for Vishnu, which frees one from the bondage of work. So it's verse 9. That only when something is done as yagya or sacrifice for Vishnu or Krishna, then it doesn't entangle us into the karmic cycle. Then verses 10 to 16 describe from karma kanda to karma yoga. Previously, Krishna established the fact that one should not artificially renounce activities, but should perform prescribed duties with detachment, in a detached way. So, without being attached to enjoy the fruits of the results of his prescribed duties. Now he explains the course of action for those who are not yet at the stage of detached work, but they have a desire to attain it. So, by satisfying their material desires in a religious way, those who are attached will be gradually purified. As explained before, the purpose of sacrifice is to satisfy Vishnu. Now Krishna will show how production of grains is dependent on sacrifice and how the origin of such sacrifice is Vishnu. So production of grains depends actually on the rains that come from the skies, from the heavens, from the demigods. And if the demigods are pleased, then they provide rain, and rain facilitates growing of the grains. Then in verses 17 to 35, Karma Yoga is described, and this chapter is called Karma Yoga, third chapter. Performing detached work to set the example. So in this section, in verses 17 to 21, Krishna describes the position of a self-realized person in relation to work. So, of course, if you look at these verses while you hear my explanation, my overview, then it will be more clear to you. Although such a person need not perform prescribed duties, he continues working to set an example for common men to follow. Oh, sorry, this refers to Krishna. Krishna doesn't need to perform his prescribed duties, but he is doing it to set an example for all people to follow. Krishna uses himself as an example to show that even God works according to scriptures in order to set the standards for others to follow. He describes how a person with knowledge should relate to ignorant people who are attached to fruitive results. So the devotee should encourage them by his words and by his example to engage the results of their work in devotional service. So you don't encourage them to stop working, but somehow to connect, to engage their work in devotional service to God. Then finally Krishna advises Arjuna to fight with devotion for Krishna and become free from the bondage of fruitive actions. So again, fruitive action is action with the intention to enjoy the results of this work. Krishna concludes his explanation of Karma Yoga in this chapter by warning Arjuna not to give up his prescribed duties, like fighting, even though there is some imperfection. He says that everyone is forced to act according to his nature and that repression will not accomplish anything. In one sense, this is similar to what modern success teachers teach, that don't be afraid to fail. Every endeavor is covered by some kind of mistake. And the last section of this chapter is very, very important, one of the most important sections, to beware of lust and anger. These are verses 36 to 43. Arjuna asks Krishna what forces us to act sinfully, and Krishna describes our eternal enemy in the form of lust. One can conquer lust by working in Krishna consciousness with steady intelligence fixed on knowledge of one's pure identity. So, what you are doing, studying Shastra systematically, learning, remembering and following, applying it to your life, you are actually following this instruction in the third chapter to develop steady spiritual intelligence and to be established in your pure spiritual identity of an eternal servant of Krishna. So in this way you will be able to conquer lust, and this is instruction for all of us. So this is the overview of chapter 3.